Welcome back to another Modified Rides podcast. I'm your host, Brandon Burrell. Today I have someone that is pretty heavily influential in the automotive interior world. I'm going to say hi, Chris Pate here from MTI.
Hey, what's going on, y'all?
So if any of y'all's ever seen any of the high-end stuff, you guys that are on the video side of this podcast, you can see the background, all the best of awards. Chris has been involved in some pretty high end show vehicles. His company MTI, they do quite a bit of pretty high end interiors. If it has an MTI interior, you can pretty much bank that it's going to be a best of winner at pretty much every show. Covers the magazines. That's just where that's gone. So Chris, is it MTI? Like it's Mobile Toys? Like what's the actual name of the company?
So, there's three companies, and they're all under the shell name of Mobile Toys Inc., and that's the original company we started 14 years ago. So we were a car audio shop back then, and we still do car audio now, obviously. But when I guess 8 years ago, we started doing a little bit of interior work. We bought out an upholstery shop and brought in a stitcher. I guess really about probably 5 years ago, really started doing high end interior work, and 5 or 6 years ago, something like that. And we did that. We felt like it needed to have a brand on its own, and obviously we don't want to get away from the MTI shield, which we've kind of kept for years. So we decided that we'd call it MTI Automotive Designs to separate it from the audio side and the manufacturing side of the company, and that's kind of where it came from. And so if it's an interior, it goes under MTI Automotive Designs. But at the end of the day, it's all Mobile Toys Inc., so it doesn't really matter. It
I
all goes
never
in one
know
bank
which.
account.
When I tag you guys on Instagram or something, I never know which. Like, is it this one? Is it that one? I'll just tag, but all of them. It's fine.
That's what I tell Lonnie all the time. They always say, "Which one to tag?" I don't know, man. Just tag all three. It's like the one with the most traffic's Mobile Toys Inc., because we've had it the longest, and that's the one where everybody goes. So that's kind of a hodgepodge of everything. We just dump everything into there, and sometimes clients are like, "Oh, it worked out," because sometimes clients will see that and they go, "I had no idea you did interiors. I just thought you built these sub boxes," and I was like, "Great, well, send me your truck, ship it across country." I mean, just like you did your other stuff, and it's worked out pretty well for us over the years. So we just kind of, I tell the guys, just do what you do, and everything will work out. So
With the amount of high end stuff that you guys have turned out, it's hard to believe that you've only been doing it full time for that amount of time. You'd think y'all had been doing this for 20 years. Like y'all's work is bar none probably one of the best in the country right now.
yeah, part of that is us. We just we've probably worked 3 or 4 lifetimes in that 5 years. We have a tendency to work 20-hour days, and it doesn't really bother us because we enjoy what we do, and we enjoy building the vehicles, and we've got a lot of them down to a science to where we can really, we know how to build certain parts of it faster and make it as efficient as possible. So, and we started out in the high-end car audio world, and that translates really well. A lot of the other guys, the really other high-end interior guys out there, like Avant-Garde and JK Automotive Designs, Tracy, well, not Tracy, because Tracy was starting audio, but the other two guys, and they all started as high-end car audio guys, and we all kind of come from the same cloth. We all teach at the same schools, and we, every one of us became high-end interior guys, and so it was just kind of a normal transition. So it's easy when you're used to building high-end panel work for already for kind of interiors, but it's really you're covering up audio work. That stuff translates really well. So you take those build concepts and those design ideas and the processes, and it's easy to translate them into interior work.
Yeah.
If you've got an eye for design, if you're doing those panels right in the car audio world, you're already looking at existing interior lines or existing body lines in cars. So, and design cues. So that's the same design ideas you're going to take in when you do a custom interior. So it translates really well. So it was easy to make that jump. So.
Well, I guess before we get into too much of the MTI stuff, let's go back to when you were younger. What actually got you into the modified vehicle world? How did you first step into playing with vehicles?
So my dad and my brother, I got probably how everybody starts. My dad was and my brother were big into car audio, so it was kind of their thing. And they had my brother had a mini truck with a tilt bed on it and all that, and had a little Datsun too. And so I remember we were living in Channelview, Texas, and going down to a shop called Envirotech and buying car audio gear, Rockford Fosgate, kicker stuff like that,
Yeah.
and doing up my brother's Datsun and his mini truck, and then my dad had a little S10. And I remember when I was 13, my dad had got a new radio, and he was like, "Son, it's time to learn how to install a radio in a truck." I go, "Oh, awesome!" Handed me a test light and some some wire nuts, and said, "Go to town." And it took me a few hours. I got it. So yeah, so that was kind of what started it, and from there, it's just you just come up loving the stuff, and you're going to shows, autoramas, and auto shows, and you just from there, next thing you know, 16, 17 years old, you're installing your own stuff, and looking through magazines and looking at mini truck magazines and car audio electronics and auto sound and security, and you're trying to build stuff you see in magazines, because the internet doesn't exist yet,
Oh yeah.
and which is great. And then you get a job at a shop, and that's kind of how it starts. And somewhere along the way, ended up going to college, and I got a degree in a design degree and for the College of Architecture at A&M. Well, they called it environmental design. And you end up taking these concepts, learning CAD and designing in 3D and stuff like that. And next thing you know, you're done, and you're like, man, I really don't really like doing architecture that much at all.
So you went to school. You planned on being an architectural designer. Is basically what you're.
I went to school. I started off thinking I was going to be an aerospace engineer. And I got in there and was like, man, I really don't like doing all this math. This isn't fun at all. And so I got about 1 year in and jumped over to, because I wanted to just do a design. I wanted a design degree. And A&M doesn't have an art department. So they have the School of Architecture, which kind of has some type of stuff like that, but it's the closest thing they have to a design degree. So it fit. And so I jumped there and ended up having to do most of those math classes anyways. It's kind of sucky, but so yeah, so I have a bachelor's from the College of Architecture at A&M. So yeah.
But when you got out of college, you already been working for a shop at that point, or?
Yeah, I'd been working for Circuit City for 2 years at that point. I was actually a road shop manager when I graduated. When I graduated college, I was already making like, I don't know, 60,000 a year being a road shop manager, slinging car audio and managing a shop. So I remember it was funny. So y'all will laugh. So A&M, when you get your senior ring, it has the class, which it puts the class on it you're supposed to graduate. Doesn't mean you actually walk then. So mine says class of 99. I walked in '03. I'd spent 8 years getting my undergrad because I was playing in a rock and roll band, and we had a record deal and was having some fun and touring. So I'd go halftime, and I was just piddling, having a good time, finishing my degree, working, making some money. And so, yeah, so like my last semester, I had to actually negotiate my way out of school to get my degree because my degree program didn't really exist because they have separate degree programs within the College of Architecture. So I had to negotiate it with the dean of the college, and I'd known her for 8 years, and I just walked in. I was like, "Look, you and I both know I'm not going to practice architecture. I'm never going to be an architect." I was like, I install car audio. That's what I do. I just want to finish this degree so I can say I did it. And she just giggled. She goes, "Look," she goes, "I get it." She goes, "We're going to grandfather you in. You go take this 6 hour studio, and you can walk." And so I took one more design studio and graduated my degree and kept doing car audio from there. So you do that, and then as you get at that point, I was into import tuners. That was kind of my jam back then. I had first Civic Si in town, like at the '99 Civic Si in town when they introduced those, and did it up a bunch, put turbos on it, and then sold it, and then got a bunch of hatchbacks, and then did motor swaps on those, and then sold them, and then I made the awful mistake of buying an FD Gen 3 RX-7. And next thing you know, I realized that you had to have a whole budget just to drive that
Yep.
car around, and put an Atkins racing motor in it, and T70 turbo, and took it up to Ennis one night with a bunch of my buddies. And I knew it was fast. I didn't know how fast it really was because I was just into piddling street racing with my buddies, Fast and the Furious was a thing, and I was a bald guy with a red RX-7. So I fit the mold pretty good. I didn't have all the muscles, but everything else seemed to fit. But
So
I remember taking down the track at Ennis, and it was a Z06 Corvette next to me, and he was sure he was going to roast me, and I launched that thing, did a 10.99 flat, and I
oh,
came across there, and that guy. I had a helmet on, but I didn't have no roll cage in the car. I come off that track, and he goes, "Get off this truck! You ain't got no damn roll cage, son. You can't be having no 10-second car on this thing." I was like, that was my crowning achievement. I ended up selling that car like, I don't know, 6 months later to buy my first house. So sold it to some cat in Houston. He still has it to this day. So
nice. At least you know
yeah,
where it went. So I guess the school time you were basically Van Wilder for from your school term, pretty much.
yeah. I had a lot of fun. I was paying for it. My parents didn't pay my way. I paid my own way through school, so I was having a good time. I mean, it was hard not pop rock band for our area of Texas. It was a blast. I mean, so it was fun going to school, and you I'd negotiate deals with my teachers if I needed to be off for 2 or 3 weeks to go, to go do a run of shows with a band with another national. So we had a blast. So didn't sell enough records, got dropped, but like I said, we got to join the circus for a little while. It was fun. So met a lot of cool people. I still got a lot of good friends in that industry. So it's a lot of fun.
So I guess you said you did get signed, or you were.
Yeah, we had a deal with a subsidiary of Atlantic for a little while. So for like a grand total of a year. I think our first record, I think we sold 1,000 copies, maybe. It was terrible. I mean, the record was good, but it just, you just didn't sell any records. Like a lot of bands, record labels are subsidiaries of record labels. They send thousands of bands back then and just threw them against the wall and see what stuck. So it was fun. I mean, it was a lot of fun. They spent some money on us. We got a little bit of money from them and got a signing bonus. We were smart enough to not get in debt real bad to them. So, wasn't bad.
But you still play. I guess I see you online and stuff. You're still out playing and stuff at bars and stuff, though.
Yeah, every so often the guys, a bunch of the I would call it old timers at this point. About a year and a half ago, they wanted to. I hadn't done anything with them in a while, and they wanted to get back together. And I just told them, I was like, man, it's like you want me to get up and sing, I'll get up and sing. And I was like, there's anything related to being a band after that, I don't want to part in. I don't want to lug gear in. I don't want to carry something. And I was the guy who used to run stuff for everybody and run point and make sure everything got there. And I just told them, man, I don't want to do none of that. I was like, you want me to get up and sing and have some drinks? I'm your guy. I can do that. But beyond that, I'm out. So they agreed. We get together over here about once a month and do a rehearsal, and they book 3 or 4 shows a year, and we go play 3 or 4 shows a year and get a little bit of coin, and I give it back. Me and the drummer, we both have pretty well-to-do careers, so we just give the money to the other guys and say
Yeah.
here. So we don't care about any of that stuff. So it isn't enough to matter. So it's a blast though.
Now you mentioned the Circuit City Road Shop. Anybody that's under the age of probably 30 would probably have no clue what that is. So I guess he's been out of business for a while, but I know there was a lot of mom and pop shops around the country, but if you wanted your deck in twos or, a prefab box back then, Circuit City was a place to go because you'd get the cheaper price. They would install it, and everybody was friends with one of the installers at one of the local stores. So
Yeah, dude, it was nuts. I mean, it's comical. We were just at a training in Phoenix for Mobile Solutions, the school we teach at, and we were there with Chip Foose and a bunch of other high level guys, the guys from Avant Garde and the other shops, and we were teaching there, and I had to do a spill, and I said, well, we started off. My first real big professional job was at Circuit City in the road shop. If anybody else worked there, and literally 2/3 of the guys in there had all worked at a road shop at some point. So it's one of those things that most people don't realize. Before there was Best Buy, there was Circuit City.
yep.
And comical part is that Circuit City had an option, had a chance to buy Best Buy when Best Buy about went out of business and didn't. And boy, I think they regret that. But so yeah, I mean, it was a cool place to work, cool place to learn. They did stuff right. I mean, we learned how to do a lot of things there, and I know I don't know how everybody's road shop manager was, but the guys that we learned from were tough. they'd pit us young guys against each other. You'd have to wire up you solder your harnesses up and heat shrink them. And if you didn't look good, they'd come right up and cut it in half and tell you to do it again. And I mean, that's just stuff you just don't see anymore. And, it's probably why there are not as many shops and not
Yeah.
as many of that stuff is just that high level and, of doing things with integrity and doing it right. So.
Well, I know there's a lot of the magazine guys that had started there. I know Mike Alexander had started at Circuit City. I think Ernie had started at Circuit City. There were several of them that worked in the same field until they stepped into the magazine world. So it seemed like it was a stepping stone for quite a few people back in the day.
Yeah, and it was a great job. I mean, everybody that worked there made bank. I mean, everybody did well. So it was a great place to work. So yeah, a lot of guys have worked Circuit City. I know, like, just in our shop, I have 3 techs that all worked in the road shop. They're about, I guess, about maybe between 7 to 10 years younger than me. So yeah, so it's pretty crazy.
When did Circuit City go out of business? It was at least, what, 20 years ago?
Yeah, probably at least 20 years ago. Maybe not quite that. Maybe 15. Yeah, maybe 15 years ago. Maybe no, it has to be at least because I've been here. I've owned my shop for 13 years. Then we had 3 years I was in Tulsa. Yeah, it's got to be at least 18, 19 years. Maybe 20 years they went out of business. It's been a while.
Telling our age to everybody here.
Yeah, yeah, it's been a minute. So
Yeah, I remember that was I guess back in the day, everybody did the crazy big, bass systems and all that. And, Circuit City was big for what they did. And I think the car audio scene kind of fell off a little bit. I know Auto Sound and Security was probably one of my favorite magazines ever.
yeah.
Car Sound and Performance. I've got features of my vehicles in Car Sound and Performance.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
From back in that was shot in 02, 03, I think. So
Yeah. Yeah. It was the whole time period right then. I mean, that was I know us old timers, we like to refer to it as the golden age of car audio. That mid '90s to 2005 was like that golden age of car
Free,
audio.
Fast,
It
and
was,
Furious.
yeah, dude, pretty Fast and Furious, and it was just like, man, yeah, all the American brands were made in America. They're built in Phoenix or Florida or wherever, California. All the good stuff was built here. I mean, I have in my office, I got, literally as time has gone on, I've gone through and bought, amps either I couldn't afford back then, or maybe I had one and
Yeah.
I want it now. And so I find it new in box or refurbished. And, it's amazing just some of the stuff. And I don't subscribe to the things were better than thing because I know how things are built, but I can tell you it was really, it was a really that golden age of car audio because you had, Precision Power and Orion and Rockford and, and just, so many great Kicker, everything was here. It was all built here. US amps. I mean, there was so much good stuff
My
that was built in the States then. So
my CRX back in the late 90s, early 2000s had one of the billet Memphis Bell
oh
amps
yeah,
that was motorized, come up out behind the sub box and all that. But that was one of those highly sought after amps back in the day.
yeah,
Um,
yeah. It's so funny. We're doing this, and Cisco is sending me pictures of my truck, and it's coming up, and I can't look at them. Pretty hilarious. But anyway, it was just like Brandon Cisco's sending me text messages, and I'm watching pictures come. I was like, great, here we go. Yeah, man, it was just it was a good time, and JL Audio. I mean, of course, a lot of JL is still built in Florida, but JL Audio was huge. It was really coming on, and you just had a lot of really cool stuff. Just so many cool things. And then there were all these smaller companies, so building cool stuff, and just everybody was genuinely building some really cool product. They were all trying to push each other, but back then you didn't have the internet, and you didn't have
yeah.
things online, and that stuff wasn't prevalent at all because it didn't exist yet. So everything was either magazines or going to shows. There was nothing else. And so, and back then it seemed like every town had a decent shop, at least one, and
Yeah.
a group of a pretty good high level techs. And bigger cities had lots of them because I know a lot of those guys that came up over the years that were before me. And so it was one of those really, I could tell you, it was really a golden age of car audio. You didn't have to deal with a lot of the stuff we deal with now with electronics and vehicles. So some of the stuff was easier, but I mean, those guys innovated a lot of things that we do. Now we obviously do things back very different, but because they did that, we all have jobs now. There's less shops than there were then, but it was a great time to be into car audio. There ain't no doubt. So
I know when
I was happy to live it. So
the Mazda that was in the car sound and performance, it had all the Bazooka audio, triangle subs, all liquid cooled amps. I think Bazooka pretty much disappeared after one of the big hurricanes hit. 'Cause I know they were down in Louisiana or something.
they still make some marine audio stuff. I doubt any of it's built in the States. I mean, most of it's probably built in China or Korea or whatever. But they still do some marine stuff. I don't know if they make bazooka tubes anymore, but they make some marine stuff. 'Cause I know a lot of guys swear by it 'cause it's super loud. I don't do it. I don't do as much of that stuff. We build boats from time to time, but
Yeah.
but yeah, it's almost every company that you can think of that was an American made brand. It's just a name now. It's owned by some other company, and most of the product is not very good. The only company that genuinely still builds their stuff, most of their stuff here, and still has that is JL. Now Rockford still builds some good stuff, and Kicker does, but they're not built here. They are still owned by the companies that originally built them, which is impressive. But they both build good product, and not that there aren't other companies that build good stuff that's not built here, but it's the brands you think when you talk about that old school days, like PPI and
Yeah.
and that stuff like that. I mean, you can buy a PPI amp. It ain't nothing like it was. It's something that's built in China,
They
so
get it cheaper, which in turn they can sell it for cheaper.
yeah, they can, but it's also nowhere near the quality of what it was. So, so yeah, I mean, it's a different time. That's why we said the golden age of car audio, because there were just so many cool American companies, and the stuff was built here. So it was a neat time that it'll never happen again. So,
Shoot, I remember my first set of subs was a set of the original Sherwin Vega orange surround 10s from back in the day. So I think back in the mid 90s, like you had to have Sherwin Vega. Like that was what
oh yeah,
the
Sherwin
subs
Vega was the
everybody
shit.
had to have.
Oh yeah.
I think mine might have been
I,
through 3 or 4 people before I bought them, while I was in high school. But still, I still had a set of Sherwin Vegas in the car, and that was all that mattered.
we put strokers in my brother's mini truck. They were jammed. I mean, my first set of subs was a Kicker in the prefab plastic enclosures they had way back. I
Yep.
didn't even have a vehicle. I just sat in my room and I listened to them. They had the horn tweeters on top. And then when I finally got my first car, I think my first subs that I put in the car were Savard High Q12s. I had
Yeah.
3 of them, and a Trisobaric bandpass box. Me and my buddies built in his dad's cabinet shop. And then after that, it was Kicker for the longest time. I loved my Kicker stuff. I had Kicker subs, Kicker high, mids and highs, and all Rockford amps. So
I was a MB Court guy back for a while, so
yeah, yeah.
I
You
had
probably you probably don't have any high frequency response left in your hearing because of that.
that. What?
You probably they're great speakers, man. They'd split your hair in a heartbeat. I
I
remember having
still to
some
this
back in the day.
day like my stuff bright. That's why I did y'all's pillar pods. I like that in your
Oh
face,
yeah, yeah,
off
me
the
too.
glass. I don't like something you put your knee against the door. It kills all the high end. Like I don't.
Yeah.
I,
Yeah, I tell everybody I make that joke, but I'm probably the worst now. My guys, and I've got some really good techs and really good tuners, and they always when they tune something that they know that I'm going to be listening, they walk to me and say, "So we brought the high frequencies up about 2.5, 3 dB for you, old man." I was like, "Thank you." I was like, "That's cool." I was like, "Because now I don't have to go in there and adjust the treble with the radio, so it's good. Thank you." I listen to my old hair band stuff or rock and roll. It's like they always know. It's like, yeah, the old man's listening to it, so we got to turn up the high frequencies for him because he's deaf. So I was like, right on.
I'm like I said, I'm adamant about. I'm a like I grew up like on the Michael Jackson stuff because that stuff recorded back in the day was
Mm-hmm.
recorded so much better than most of the stuff you could listen to. So when I would demo something back in the day, it was always some kind of Michael Jackson song because it had the vocals, it had the highs, it showed what you actually could put out of your stereo.
Yeah, 80s pop music in general, just the space that was in
Yeah.
tracks is what made it so good. The recordings were obviously great, and they had great musicians. You go to Prince and Michael Jackson, and the list goes on and on. But I remember recording with some engineers that had worked on some of those projects years down the road. And they just talked about the space and the lack of over compressing that happened back then. And it just made for better recordings, especially the CD. It sounded awesome. So it was definitely great music to demo your system to, right? No
Oh,
doubt.
yeah. So you said you were into the import stuff, which is where I got my start. I was the lone import car guy in the mini truck world, with my tweed and shaved handles and all that. But
Oh yeah.
I was still the import guy. So did you transition from imports to trucks? Like when did that happen?
Yeah. So probably, honestly, probably about 7 years ago. So what had happened was when we started doing the upholstery side, I've had a bunch of Civics, but the one that everybody knows me for is the one that I turned into a center drive car, and it's all airbrushed up and lowered and yada yada. So on
What
and so forth.
color
That's
was
one.
that?
It's black and silver with tribal graphics going down it. It's a center
Crazy
steer car.
audio dash with the center
Yep.
drive. I remember
Yeah.
that car.
Yeah, so I still have it. It's actually in my garage. I actually, this will be the second time I put it up for sale. I've sold it once and it came back to me. It's like a freaking boomerang. But anyway, so I got it back for free when I got it back, but I'm about to sell it again. So I rebuilt it a few years ago as a demo car for one of our manufacturers. But so when we started getting into that scene, so this is the comical part. So this is how far me and Ricky go back.
Hold
Everyone
on,
always says how long you.
that was for Sony or somebody, wasn't it?
No, mine was all Focal.
That's
So
right.
when I
Yeah,
did
yeah.
all, I was all Focal.
That's right.
So I was, doing shows around Texas. I did all the heat wave shows and I did all the stuff going up and down the Gulf Coast. I never made all the way to Florida, but that kind of area. But doing those shows and especially heat wave shows, Ricky would always be there in one of his trucks,
And
and I'd be
those
there
who
in a
don't
Civic.
know, he's talking about Ricky Holly.
Ricky Holly. So Ricky Holly be there. And man, I'd be damned if every time we do a show, I'd get best import car, but I'd never get overall best of show. And Ricky Holly get it. I wasn't mad, because me and Ricky were cool, but we were like super good friends back then, but we were cool. We knew each other. And so I was like, man, the only way I'm going to beat him is I got to build a bag truck. So obviously we're starting to build, interiors for those. And I was like, you know what? I've always wanted to build a C10. And, I bought what eventually became the truck on the screen behind me, which is Lucy. That was when she was first done and she was all white with copper wheels. So we did that. We said, we're going to do this truck. We're going to build it. We're just going to build a driver. And yeah, that snowballed into $100,000 craziness, just
That
like they
never
all
happened.
do. Never happens. So took 2 years to build her, and I bought the truck. So and it was the worst version of a Hot Wheel paint job I'd ever seen on it. It was terrible, orange with some flames on it. It was really bad, and had way more rust because I didn't know anything about buying those trucks back then. And
No
I
one
mean,
did.
terrible, way more rust than I could have imagined when we blasted it down. But we I guess it was in 2018 we finished that truck up and debuted it at SEMA. It was actually the same year that Barsha debuted his Mike Barsha debuted his dually. And so
Where was your
and
truck at?
my truck was outside in the Arc Audio booth and right down from McGuire's and all that. So right on that
Okay.
first outside,
Front row.
across from the drift track and
Yeah, yeah.
behind Can Dig It and all that. So and just like everybody else at SEMA build, it didn't run. We pushed it in. Mike knows what I'm
No.
talking about. Mike's didn't
All
run
mine
that
have
year
ran.
either.
All
Mine
my
didn't
trucks
run.
have
We
ran.
pushed. We backed that trailer up right there right there in front of the entrance, and we rolled it out of the trailer. And all the Arc Audio guys in my crew pushed it in. And we aired it out. It was like we made it to SEMA. That's
I
all that
mean,
matters, and it looks good.
I did put a set of wheels on in Vegas one time, but other than that, mine have been done. I don't like the SEMA crunch deal. I like to be done before, but I'm also not building the caliber of vehicles you are. It's different when you buy something brand new and update it versus something that you've got to completely cut apart like that truck.
So this is kind of how the whole thing starts about when people say Chris can build an interior in X, Y, Z, or a week, or 2 months, or something stupid. That's really not how it happens. So that truck we had waited for 2 years to get that truck done, and fought and fought and fought with builders and getting it done. Just typical not knowing, spent way too much money on things we shouldn't have spent money on, and we get the truck, and I had argued with these guys by getting the truck to me with at least 2 months to go. I had literally 1 week to put the interior. Now, thankfully, the seats, our guys had already done the seats, but I had a week to put an interior in that stupid truck. And so I get back. Actually, me and my wife had been in France on a business trip. gone to see the factory at Focal. And we get back, and I literally get off the airplane in Intercontinental in Houston, and I call the builders up. I was like, "Where is my truck?" And they go, "Oh, it's still here at our shop." I was like, "I swear to God," I was like, "I have a 2 hour. I got 30 minutes to get through customs. It's an hour and a half to get to my shop. If that truck isn't in my shop when I get there, I was like, I'm coming after y'all." And I'll be damned if that day when I pulled up, they weren't rolling that truck into my bay. They said they don't run yet. I was like, that's fine. I don't care if it runs. It doesn't have to run to go see it. Does the air ride go up and down? I was like, yeah, it's all that matters. It's like as long as the air ride goes up and down, we're good. So I literally stayed up for 5 days straight and just milling panel work as fast as I could, and put something. My guys jumped in and helped, and literally my business partner showed up there, and I had the truck hooked to the trailer, and he's like, and I'm just sitting there like a zombie, and he's just like, "What are you doing?" I was like, "Truck's done. We can leave." And and then I was like, "But I can't drive to Vegas. It's never going to happen." So him and Samantha drove the whole way there. I slept for a solid 13 or 14 hours. Woke up, I don't know, somewhere in Mexico or somewhere. I don't know. Maybe it was Arizona. And they said, "Hey, man, we just stopped at a Rudy's." I said, "Hey, can you drive?" And I go, "Yeah." I got in there and drove it was dark. I drove for 1 hour, and I literally pulled off. I was like, "Y'all got to drive this. I want to go back to sleep. I can't do it." I was sick as a dog. We got there, we unloaded the truck, got it in there. They went and saw Marshmallow that night. I couldn't. I was so sick, I couldn't even want to go. It was Halloween night. They went and saw Marshmallow and had a good time. Rolled back in the room. They was like 4 in the morning when they got in. They were shooting backstage with the dude, and got pictures and all this stuff. My kids were tripping and literally come in there loud, and I'm pissed, and so like I had to get up the next morning to clean the truck, and I got up at 7 a.m., turned all the lights on, and walked out of the room. They were all pissed at me. So yeah, so that's where kind of all that started. It's building stuff fast. But I mean, like literally, I showed the truck with that interior for probably maybe a year, and I think that first feature in Street Trucks had that interior in it, and so. We the next year, Robert, I had some issues with the truck. It got a Truck of the Year late nomination from Good Guys. It did pretty good, but it didn't do as good as I'd hoped. And it kept having issues, as SEMA builds do. When you're trying to push to get stuff done on
Yeah.
the truck itself. So I knew Robert from Alamo, and he was who I originally wanted to build the truck. But as had been the case with a lot of things with me and him, we've never been on the same page. So it's never been time wise. It just never worked out.
Yeah.
So, I'm running around going to shows. Robert let me put it in his booth at LST. And so, long and short of it is, me and Robert talked. I said, "Hey, man, I really need you to just go through the truck and fix it. There's stuff going on with the paint. I don't know if the paint's bad, if they have the chemicals settled, if the chemicals didn't gas enough. I don't know if the paint job's ruined. I don't really know. I could just see things going on." And Robert's like, "Man, let me get to the shop." So I get to the shop, and, lo and behold, there really wasn't anything wrong with it. It needed to be recut and buffed. And there were some minor things that he fixed, and he went through and he really polished the truck up for me and got it to look right. And it was after that the truck started to do really well. We were never able to get it over the hump and get a best of show in that one at LST. We did I think, got best classic truck one year with it and best full size truck with it, which was cool. But we really, every year we worked so hard. We changed the interior one year, and then obviously, and then me and Robert, the next year we decided we were going to two-tone it and put new wheels on it and put the trim all back on it and put bumpers on it. We took that truck from year to year, going as far as we could, changing up the bed, and until we finally, I sold the truck, and a gentleman out of Alabama owns it now, and he redid the bed and everything. I felt like it was kind of the last thing that had to get done on it, to really transition it to being a different truck now.
That was the one that was at LST this year, wasn't it?
Yeah, it's at
Yeah.
LST this year.
Got your logo and the notch.
Yeah, logo on the notch. So
did you ever beat Ricky? Did you ever get your
I think I beat Ricky one time, and it wasn't at a heat. Well, no, I don't think I ever did, because me and Ricky were at shows together one year. When he had the Grinch and I had my truck, and we did that whole year together. And I don't think I ever beat him that year. No, I don't think I ever did. And I did beat Mike Barsha, and I think it was a gimme. I did beat Mike Barsha one time, but in Mike's defense, it was the second year me and him went to Orange Beach together, and I think they just were like, "Man, we're going to give it to you twice. We're going to give this one to Chris," and so because he had won the year before.
You got it.
Yeah, I don't think I actually beat him. So, anyways, but
I'd still rub it in though.
I did. We had a good time. So, those are my boys. So, but
Yeah.
you know, um, we never did. It was funny. Ricky had done the Grinch. He sold the Grinch and then started Lolita, and that was when at that point he said, "Hey, look, you're going to do the interior in it." And that's when it took 2 years to build Lolita. At the same time, or just right before he's doing Lolita, I'm building Georgia for my guy out of Atlanta, my buddy Terry Kervin. So we're building that for him. And so at that point, me and Robert and Ricky really and the guys that drops for us, we Jose, we just kind of were like, me and Robert, I really came to Robert with this vision. I was like, look, wouldn't it be cool if we could really like hone in and put this stuff together and as a kind of a team effort and really kind of build these trucks? It's obviously somebody's got to pay for them. I was like, but I mean, if we could put these trucks together in such a way and and really kind of have this formula for showing them. So I kind of came up with, my side was more design and obviously the interior side and audio and then showing the trucks. So, and getting them out there and where Roberts, was designing and building and doing all the metal fab and then obviously, your engine and
Yeah.
mechanical work was done by Drops for Us. So it was really where that started was with Georgia. And so we got Georgia done. And Georgia started kind of as a weird deal because my buddy Terry, who I built, he had that fantastic IROC, that greening, been taken around for the last 2 years, the red
Really
IROC. Yeah, so that's his too. So that
ridiculous.
thing is ridiculous car. So that's his as well. And he's got a really nice collection of cars. But so, anyways, he doesn't even like trucks. Like he likes his big F-250s and TRXs and stuff, but he don't like classic trucks. That ain't his jam. He likes fast cars. And he calls me one day, and it was actually right after we got the Truck of the Year late nomination. I was there with my daughter at Good Guys, and he calls me and he goes, Chris. And I remember Ricky and them were there because Ricky and Robert had come just to hang out. And he goes, Chris, I want to build a truck and I want to knock everybody's dick in the dirt. I was like, what? And I was like, what does that even mean? He goes, man, I just want the baddest truck. I want to take it. We're going to win LST. We're going to do all these shows. I was like, okay. So what's going to happen is you're going to help me find a truck and then you're going to show it. I go, oh, okay. I was like, that's how the whole thing starts. That's how all this started. So I had what was Georgia sitting in my warehouse because another guy had started it. It was an Aggie and he ran out of money. And instead of letting this shop steal his truck, I gave him the money to get it from them. I said I'd store it till he could pay me back, and I kept his trailer as collateral. And he's a nice guy, and so I put the deal together. Terry got the truck for a song, but the body needed all sorts of love. But it was on the No Limit chassis. It had the LT4 in it. It had the drivetrain. It had a bunch of really good parts. So he got it cheap. He got it for cheap. And it was the guy had a bunch of money in Willwood brakes and expensive stuff. So, Robert did his thing and whooped it up. And, we were able to get that truck out, and that truck really was kind of the beginning of, I guess, the run we kind of had now. And it's it was a lot of fun to take that truck around because it was just so different than anything that had been done on one of those trucks before. So, and that was always kind of my thing with Robert. I was like, whatever we build together, it's got to be out of this world different. I was like, I don't want it to look like a spaceship. I was like, I want it to look different than anybody else's version of that vehicle. Because, you see so many of these vehicles done and done and done. You have to find some way to make them original. And so that was something really.
For the listeners that don't know, so Georgia, that's what, a 59 Apache?
It is technically a 59 Apache.
Okay.
Everybody thinks it's a 56 because, well,
I actually had a
the
guy
front end.
email me and complain about it being on cover. Like, no, they didn't make that and this and that. And I just ignored the email.
Yeah. So, yeah, the body's a 59 Apache. That's the only thing that was a 59. Everything else, Robert changed. I remember him emailing me back and forth and calling me, and he'd be like, what do you think? What do you think about doing 55 fenders and a 56 hood and a 56 grill? And I go, man, Robert, I don't care. I was like, just go with it. And I was like, I'll come check it out. And if I don't like it, then we'll change it. I was like, so I get over there and look at it. I was like, you know what? I didn't like the dual headlights anyway. So let's go with those. And, and that's just kind of how me and him works. It's just always been we're really good at bouncing ideas off each other. And I don't have a problem. He says he doesn't like it. And he doesn't have a problem if I say I don't like it. And if we both don't, we're like, we don't agree. We just got to say, all right, let's shelve this and we'll come back to it. And so yeah, that's always kind of how me and him have worked. But he had such great ideas, like the airbrush airbrush wood in the bed, and where it looked. I mean, I remember going to so many events, and everyone was like, "That's wood," and I was like, "No, man, it's not. It's airbrushed aluminum. It's airbrushing over aluminum." So it was really cool. And then we did the interior. I felt so different than what anybody had done in one of those trucks,
Yeah,
and
sure.
I had Robert metalwork all the B pillars and the front dash because like that was, and not to bring no great, but like you see so much in those trucks, they're really nice, they're done really well. But on that generation truck, there's a trim that goes in the piece, the front part of the dash, and it's never finished under the trim. I don't care how nice the truck is, it's not finished. It's just overspraying it. I'm going to use a deal. Phenomenal truck, the Dixon truck this year in
Switch.
the switch booth. Phenomenal truck. Absolutely unbelievable.
Yeah.
The suspension was outrageous. Everything about it. Loved the paint. Loved everything about it. Like the interior was awesome. And it's the same thing on every other one of those trucks I've ever seen. It has the trim on it, and it's all the junk sitting in there, and you can see it through the windshield. And that's how. So when we did Georgia, that was like a big deal. So I'd have like these lists. I was like, Robert, you got to metalwork that dash all the way in because we were using flush mount glass from Carmen over at AM Glass, and she custom built all that for us. And so, it was like a big deal, but he did such a good job of body working all the B pillars and the A pillars and just making sure where that glass laid down, there were no gaps and you didn't see gasket or any of the glue for the gasket or any of that jazz. So it made to where, when we did the interior, everything just had this nice, clean seamless and did such a good job matching the leather color from Relicate that we had. It just made for a really, really cool vibe when you got in the truck and really looked at it, and it really complemented the outside colors without like saying, "Hey, we're going to color match everything on the inside and bring it in."
Yeah.
So it was a really cool vibe. So
And then under the engine bay of that truck with all the panels and stuff like that, you open the hood and it's like, wow, that's not what I was expecting.
it was so over the top, and I know me and him argued back and forth, and it's actually that one and Ricky's are the last two that will ever be done that way by us. So, and Ricky's was a little less. I remember when he did it, and he had a different design. It was going to have the LT fork shown in the middle, kind of like Ricky's is, but everything was so gonna be swoopy, and I was good with that. And then he called me one day and he says, "Hey, call Jesse Greening. I want these faux stacks that he's got for these 8 stacks. He makes them." So I'm friends with Jesse, and so I called Jesse up and I was like, "Hey man, can you send these to Robert?" He goes, "For what?" I go, "I don't know, man. He's got this engine cover thing that's going to go over the LT4." He goes, "So he's going to cover up the whole motor, huh?" I go, "Yeah." And he goes, "It's going to look like an 8 stack." I was like, "Yeah." And he goes, "Whatever." And so he sent it to him, and it looked great, and it really was. It was cool, and everybody and that was like that to me was the one thing in the truck that everybody looked at. You either were like, "Wow, this is awesome," or you were like, "Why'd you cover your motor up?" And so I remember me and Robert looking at each other, and even the owner at one point was like, "Man, I want to have Robert change it." It was like the next year after we won everything, and I was like, "Why? Who cares?" And Robert looked at me, he was really excited. I said, "Man, he wants to have it done." He even had Jesse, one of the rendering guys that Jesse uses, do a rendering and send it over to us. It looked awesome. I was like, "Man, you're gonna spend 30 grand doing that." I was like, "Why?" I was like, "We're gonna sell the truck in less than a year. Somebody's gonna buy it in the next year. Who cares?" And sure enough, like 3 months later, thank God it sold. So I was like, "Oh, I don't have to," because I was be the one stuck coordinating it and shuttling it around everywhere, and I didn't want to do it. So I was like, it was fun. Terry is he's my biggest client. He's a great friend, and we build a lot of cool stuff. We have a couple other vehicles we're doing coming up, but he was a hoot about it. But yeah, it's comical. He never drove that truck. The owner of that truck never had.
Really?
Well, he never had it in his possession. He never drove that truck. He got in it twice ever.
And you still have the trophy there sitting behind you.
I do. I do sell the trophy. That one, thankfully, I'll get to keep. Is the one over here. I'll get to keep that
So
one.
that was
So
the LST Best of Show winner in 2022.
2022, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So
So
I
that
guess
was that
then
was
that
like
steps into Lolita, which won the 2023, correct?
that one. That's Lolita in 23. So apparently the story goes they were like the trophies were getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and so they asked to shorten it a little bit, not realizing how much Phil shortened it. And no one realized how much Phil shortened it until they put it next to mine from the year before. Well, they didn't think that they would both end up in the same spot. That was just kind of the joke. And so when I had them both and I was taking pictures, they were like, "Is it really that much shorter?" I go, "Yeah, it really is." So it was
Well, Phil
comical when they
can't
did.
judge. Phil's so much taller than anything he
He's
ever builds. So
he has his own atmosphere, man. So when they did this one, I had no idea how much bigger 24 was until I got it home. I was like,
so
oh
those are
man,
sitting level on the ground
they're
behind you.
sitting level. They're sitting on the well, they're sitting on a shelf behind me. But yeah, they're sitting level, all on the same shelf. Um, so it's interesting to have all three of them in one spot. I mean, two of them will go back home. I'm going to take the 2024 one to the owner here in a few weeks after I take a few more fun family pictures with it, and I'm going to give Ricky his back, and I'll have mine, and hopefully here soon enough I can win one that actually has Chris Pate's name on it. So which would be awesome. That's kind of my goal. So.
Nice.
But it's been fun. I mean, to be associated with these builds, and it's just it's a blessing. You know, everybody kind of has their thing, and you know, for us, LST is our Super Bowl. You know, we every year when you know it's like there's SEMA and then LST, and so you know, for the last 3 years, that's just kind of the way it's been for us. And you know, we felt like that we've made it a big part of our business, and you know, we build specifically for LST and SEMA, and we plan out what we're going to take. You know, especially the last 3 years, we knew going in what we had, what cars we were bringing this year, and we planned it. You know, we built that Bel Air, and it hadn't debuted yet. It hadn't been to any events. We built that Bel Air for a gentleman his name's John Hodges and his wife Jackie, and they're out of Kima, and we had the pleasure of being able to work on what I feel like is the best looking, best built 59 or 57 Bel Air I've ever seen in my life. I'm sure there's better ones, but I haven't seen it.
That
And
one's super clean for sure. The fit and finish on everything. Who did
yeah,
the body and stuff on that one?
Hot Rod Dynamics, I believe, did. I think they're in North Carolina. I hope I don't get that wrong. I think they're in North Carolina. No, it's a Nelson racing motor. I thought it was sitting on a an Art Morrison chassis, but I've been told that it's not an Art Morrison chassis. I don't remember whose chassis it's on. I know it's on a custom chassis with air ride, but anyways, it's you know it's a phenomenal specimen, and you know it's just very well executed, and um, the Jackie John's wife did such a great job, you know, with helping us pick the colors for it. It's comical. We had done one for Twin States maybe a year prior. It's phenomenal. I mean, Twin States built such great vehicles. We
Yeah.
had the opportunity to build one for those guys, do their interior. And it was so funny. I went right after we finished that car. I literally go to John's facility where he has the most unbelievable car collection you'll ever see. I mean, right up there with Jay Leno. It's like 130 vehicles. I mean,
Wow.
everything you could ever imagine, all the high end, you know, Boss Mustangs, all the high end Mopars, the stuff you see that goes across the block that goes for 300 or 400 grand. He's got all of them. I mean, it's unbelievable, the collection. And so I go into this facility. I'm just looking around. I'm at Whiplash, and there sits this lone modern street rod. Everything else is more of a year one or you know some type of stuff like that, or maybe it was a custom car 10 years ago, 15 years ago. But here you can see is this one modern street rod laid out, and I'm like, wow, this is an oddball. He goes, yeah, he just finished it, and the interior's not done, and it was gutted. And so we took pictures of it and stuff, and you know we said, hey, let's put a quote together. We put a quote together for it, and a bid, and we you know sent it in, and I didn't hear anything from him for months. I don't know, 6, 7 months, and then he out of the blue texts me. He goes, hey, we're ready to bring it in to you. I'm like, you're not even on my list. And I was like, man, you know, I don't have a deposit with me or nothing, but you know, I wanted to build the car, and I was like, man, you know what? Bring it in here in 3 months, and we'll hoof it out and get it done. And that's kind of what we did. And you know, we just tore into it, and then he goes to like Concours d'Elegance and you know those type events with his vehicles, and that's what he does. He does a bunch of shows, but it's in that world.
Yeah.
So he's had something at LST before, but it was like a vehicle that was in the ride tech booth that somebody asked to borrow or something.
Yeah.
And so you know, for me to ask him to have one of his car handlers bring this car over, I don't even know if he's going to really bring it in or not, but he promised me to be there. And you know, John is a very much a man of his word, cool guy. So he has his handler pull up in this. They had to go. They don't even own an enclosed trailer. They own these big open trailers, and they load them up in there. So he went and bought an enclosed trailer just for that car, And of course, it's phenomenal, expensive, really awesome. Side doors all open, and he pulls up, we unload it, we take it there. It was already clean, and so we laid it out and did our thing with it, and it was, it was a, we really, if anyone saw the inside LST this year, we had planned and laid that out, 6 months prior. We knew what vehicles we wanted to bring, and we knew what vehicles we had done, and we knew the trucks that had done well, because like the silver truck from Terry
Yeah.
and the blue truck from Slick Fabs, we had both those. We debuted both those trucks at Autorama Houston, and they both were finalists for the Millwinder Award, and they both won top truck awards there too. So, and then Terry has since then, with the silver truck, he's done a bunch of Autoramas since then. I think 3 or 4 at that point. And so it was really cool, to have those vehicles. And then obviously we got to do some of the rework on Mike Barsha's truck. We got to do his new dash and his new console, and
Yeah.
Mike was bringing that out, and so so it was just, and then the red C10 from Robert Carpenter, we got to, we had done his, so we'd really planned out what we wanted on the inside.
You had stuff in
And
Eddie's Mazda too, right?
yeah, we helped Eddie do some stuff on his truck, and we did all his stuff and scanned it and just built it for him and shipped it out, which was cool. So it was really fun to have all that stuff, and that was kind of what I'd been asking Lonnie, and he'd been back and forth with me. They always have reserved like 3 spots inside for me for the last 3 years, and so I told him, I was like, this year it's like, if there's space, I'd like to have a few more and work it in. And so, I told him, I was like, I'd like to eventually have that room, to where eventually half of it or 3/4 of it is all just high end. The high end cars are in there, and because like a lot of my guys, like they would not have brought any of those other trucks if they had to be outside in the dust. They weren't going to do
the
it,
rain
or the rain or any of that. And it's not that they don't mind. I was like, they'll do an outside show because they'll go to Good Guys, stuff like that. But the dust isn't like it is at LST. It's either dusty or rainy, and that's what it is. And so like the weather's phenomenal, but it was dusty. And so they didn't want to get all that dust over their vehicle. That's why we had 4 or 5 up front in the Alamo area, but then all the really high end ones, those clients wanted them inside.
Yeah.
And so we just we planned it out, and we knew going in that we knew going in what we had in the Bel Air, and obviously Mike's truck was there, so we knew we had going in there. So we just kind of felt like we felt like we had a good shot, and that's we wanted to make sure we had a good shot at it. And you don't know, they got ISCA judges that judge that, and phenomenal judging crew, so you just don't know. But I mean, we've worked really hard at it. I don't know that anybody really understands exactly how much effort we put into to busting our ass to win that show. I mean, we go to try to win any show we go to, but LST, we'll sell. Well, I wouldn't say we'd sell our soul, but we would definitely, we'll definitely work till we pass out and then keep working.
At least rent it out, right?
We'll rent it out for the weekend. But yeah, I mean, it's been a phenomenal run the last 3 years.
No
just
one
the
else has
vehicles.
got that many back to back. No one's got more than one.
No one has more than one.
Have they?
Yeah, no one's got more than one. And I guess technically I really don't have 3 back to back. My clients do, but to be associated with them and just, yeah, I mean, to be involved and to be able to, really be a part of it has been an awesome deal. I know all the sign guys say we have the best clients, but I do really have the best clients. They're, and they're always willing to take their vehicles someplace, and some of them that ask me to take them. I know a lot of the ISCA judges will see me at shows with 2 or 3. I'll carry 2 trucks in. They're like, what do these clients do? They just give you the truck? I go, and some of them do. They just don't ever leave. And then, but a lot of them are like, this year's been really good. It's everybody's handled their own vehicles. I haven't had to really tow anybody's stuff because right now I'm in the middle of finishing my truck right now. So, it's been really good, and like I know for Battle in Bama, all the clients are taking their trucks there, which is great. We're just going to have them in our booth. And so it's been a phenomenal run just to kind of, and it's allowed us to continue to advance what we do and refine it. And, we joke all the time and say, how many ways can we make a C10 interior look different? And then, we literally every time go into it, and if someone gives me an idea, shows me a picture of something I did, I was like, man, I'm not copying that interior. I was like, I don't want to. If you want a production interior from me, I do production interiors. But if you're paying me to build you a custom interior and you want a custom dash, you show me some pictures of something I did, but I'm not going to copy it. I mean, we just did that on the Red C10. We just posted a video up. I haven't posted the pictures. I haven't edited them yet, but it's for Mike Stevens out of Houston. He's got a great car collection too, and he had some stuff, and he showed me some pictures I like, and he showed me a sketch of what he wanted. We did a rendering, and I just, man, I hate this rendering. I was like, I really don't like it. And he goes, yeah. I was like, man, would you just kind of let me freelance this and do what I want to do? And I showed him the digital model, and he goes, I like that a lot better. I was like, thank God, because I didn't want to build the other thing.
And
Well, we
I'm
got,
like that when I have someone do work for me, if that's what they do, whether they're a painter or a fabricator or whatever, like you do you, call me when you're done. It's like someone trying to tell me how to take a photo. Well, you need to be, 3 foot to the left if you're going to take that photo for it to be right. And it's like, no,
yeah,
let someone like you do what they need to do.
yeah. I mean, we really do have good clients, and we do renderings for all of them. We like to give them a roadmap, but that's the one time when we did a rendering, and I just said this roadmap is flawed, and we all hated it. Like all three of us, me and Justin Cush does all our renderings. He's my right hand man, and then Phil's my left hand man, and we all three of us hated that rendering. We're just like, this is the dumbest one we've ever done. I was like, I don't even like this. I don't even know that I would be proud of it. And I told him, I was like, man, it had like a hump in the middle, and it just looked weird. It looked like, we called it Cyclops. Is what it looked like, Cyclops. It was really weird looking. And I was like, man, I just can't do it. It looks odd. I wouldn't be proud of it. And I told him, I was like, man, I tell my clients all the time. I was like, look, you can tell me if you don't like something, and it won't hurt my feelings. But don't think for one instant I ain't going to tell you if I think something's terrible. I was like, because I don't want to put my name on it. I was like, so he was Mike Stevens was really cool about it. He actually, when it was done, he goes, man, I'm so glad that I let you do your thing. He goes, because this is way better than what I wanted. I was like, oh. Same thing happened on the silver truck for Terry Wise. Like, he's the hardest I've ever had to build something for. And he literally was like, Chris, but this is that. And he'd show up at the shop. And he's from Lufkin. It was like 2 hours away. And he'd show up at the shop, and he'd be like, Chris, what this? And finally one day, I had a whole top section of the dash, everything already done in HDU, which is very expensive plastic. And he comes in, he goes, I don't know that I like that dash hump over the gauge hood you got there. I go, oh yeah? Well, what do you want to do? And he shows me one off a Ford F-150. I was like, well, that really don't work in this. I was like, but if you want that, I'll do it. But I'm going to tell you right now, the moment I start working on it, it's by the hour. I was like, so however long it takes me, I'm just adding it to your bill. And he goes, okay, well, let me ponder that. I go, you do that. About 8 hours later, he calls me. And he goes, you know what? Let's just go and keep it. I like it the way it is. I was like, you know what? I'm glad. And he never bothered me 1 ounce after that. It was so funny. And he got to the end, and his wife and him, they picked it up, and she gave me a hug, and she goes, it's so awesome. And Terry's like, I'm glad this finally let you do your thing. He goes, the next one, I ain't going to say nothing to you. He goes, I'm going to let you just do your thing. I was like, I didn't know. I was like, no, that's fine. But that's how most of our clients are pretty hands off. Like Ricky had no idea what Lolita was going to look like until we showed him. Lolita went so fast, we didn't even do a rendering for Lolita.
You're doing his next truck he's working on?
Oh yeah. I'm definitely doing his thing.
53?
It's going to be a 64.
60, yeah, okay, yeah.
That's what they're saying. Who knows though? I mean, you don't know with Ricky, man. I mean, I've seen 3 different things until we start working on it. I don't believe anything he says.
That's what I told him when he asked me about, running his next one. I'm like, well, until I see it, I don't even believe you have one. So
I know he has a truck, and I know that he has a truck, and I know what it is, and I know what he's planning on doing. But until we actually start on it, I say all bets are off. Now I know there's renderings because I've seen them, and because we were picking colors for it already. So we've kind of planned. Me and him plan our builds out now, so we don't overlap each other. That's kind of our deal. So we made sure that Georgia was done when Lolita came out, and then Georgia got sold, and then obviously that got sold. I have a crew cab that I'm going to debut at Bama. That's for one of my best friends from college. So he's got his crew cab that Brandon Cisco did that we were supposed to debut at LST, and we didn't. It's a 71 crew cab. It's the one that he had at Dino's 2 years ago. It has the Frenched in trim, so that all the trim down the side is flushed in. It's not sitting on the outside of the truck. But it's a crew cab. It's I think chopping block front and rear suspension. It's a static truck, but it's the bed is leaned forward. The cab is leaned forward to match it. The
Oh
back of the
wow.
cab's leaned forward to match it. All one piece glass. It's a phenomenal truck. And Russell Robert painted it. Mechanical was done by Drops R Us, and we were supposed to debut it at LST, and it's been a bear just finishing their side, finishing the truck. So we hadn't even got the truck yet. We actually built the seats for it before SEMA because we were hoping to take it to SEMA, but that's probably the one that's bought us the most, which is comical. But I've been fighting with this specific truck for 3 years trying to get it done. Just how things go sometimes, and during COVID and all that jazz. But so we got that one. We'll have that one for literally all the way up till my Blazer should be done, and then that one will go home, and I'll do mine for a year and a half, and Ricky should be done about that time. So that's
So
kind of my plan.
what is your personal build that you're currently working on?
I am working on a Blazer. I guess it's not really a Blazer though. It's really kind of a lie. We're going to call it a square body Tahoe.
Okay.
We we I would say I can't show anybody any pictures because of where I'm debuting it at. But it's at Cisco's, Brandon Cisco. He's doing all the metal fab. It's sitting on a modified Acme chassis. It is and for all practical purposes, someone sees it. It's a 77 Tahoe.
Okay.
If it was, there's nothing on that truck that's from the 70s. Everything was cut from something else. We took an 88 Suburban and cut it in half, or Cisco
Oh
did.
wow.
And to get rid of the middle section, it has the long back section from a Suburban. So it has the long windows on the back end. It has the hatch, not the barn doors on it. Everything on the front it's all unibody. The only things that move are the hood, the doors, and the back hatch. So it's a crazy, crazy deal. It's the
Looks like
craziest thing I've ever built, or been a part of. Ricky even looks at it and he's like, "Man, this is nuts." It is gone phenomenally over budget, which is great. Brandon, you're awesome, and you kick ass, and everything you've done has been awesome. So, but to Brandon's credit,
not
he
me,
had
not
he,
Brandon
not
Cisco.
you, not Brandon Cisco. To Brandon's credit, he has taken everything I've said seriously, which is awesome. Because I'm a designer, and he's a good designer in his own right, so don't take anything away from it. He is a phenomenal metal fab guy. And that was the one thing I told him is like, I don't care whether it's on the inside of something where my panel work's going to occur, outside. I don't want somebody to ever see a or something that not look like a built free. It's the one thing I was scared of is there being something where it welded or something like that, and them knowing that I cut something apart to build it, because it's literally all built. It didn't exist. And so, man, I can tell you unequivocally when the pictures come out and I do the build log on it, and you see the inside, and everything on the inside of the truck looks like factory stamped steel.
Nice.
It doesn't look like he cut this thing apart and sleeved it together and welded it all up to build the body. So, and like the way the front end is done is completely, it's absolutely never been done nowhere at all in a square body world has what we're doing on the front of this truck or any of this truck has ever been done. It's sitting on a coilover chassis. It literally sets 3.5 inches off the ground on coilovers.
Wow.
Turns lock to lock, tucks 7 inches of wheel on 22s, front and back. And it's got to cut some. We are designing the wheels right now with Raceline. Raceline's gonna one off us a set of wheels for it.
Nice.
There's a ton of crazy billet work in it that is all that we're gonna get the guys. Probably we've got 3 or 4 buddies that say they'll do it, but I bet you probably ends up being EVOD. So, and hopefully we'll get him to do it, and then ton of billet work on it. It's just we built it to go do ISCA stuff. There's a lot of shows that we haven't won that we want to get in that realm and at least get our foot wet and kind of see what those guys think of us custom truck guys. But it's a phenomenal truck. It's going to be great, and it's rad. It's super duper rad. But yeah, we'll debut it at Grand National Roadster Show this next year. So
Nice.
it comes out of Metal Fab in I think 3 weeks, and it goes to. We split it apart. Part of it goes to Robert, and part of it goes to Mike Barsha to do some grinding and sanding on the block for me, and yeah, it's gonna be a lot of fun. We've had a lot of our friends help out to help get it done, and then we'll scan the truck. We'll scan the body when it's at Roberts to start the interior, and then we'll design the whole interior in 3D and start milling stuff ahead of time. And we'll fast track it like we do all our stuff. But Carmen at AM Glass is doing all the custom glass because it's got a crazy chop on it, and there's obviously none of the glass could be used.
So
And
that's how you do your builds is you actually scan what you need. Like, I mean, I guess you get high tech with it to get the
yeah,
panel to fit like you do.
yeah, we 3D scan all our builds. Obviously C10s we have a lot of them scanned already, and so a lot of those trucks we have scanned. If it's something we've already done, but like a lot of the vehicles, you have to go back and redo parts of it. We try to rescan. Like especially cars. Cars are the ones you almost always have to rescan it because they've always done something, especially the back end of the vehicle. They've tubbed it differently. It's not put together exactly right. I don't know that I've very few hot rods where I took a center line down it and go, man, it is that much off from left to right back here. That's weird. And, but it really is. I mean, it's freaking crazy. I think the only car that I've got into where it was pretty darn symmetrical was the Bel Air that we did for John. I was like, wow, this one's pretty straight. That's a rarity.
Now,
Um,
how has the scanning aspect changed the custom interior building world?
so it's been huge. The guys at AG really, Jeremy Carlson over there is one of my dear friends, and he really is the one that's got all of us kind of to go that way. And so 3D scanning allows us to basically, take the digital information, the polygons from all these shapes that exist and all these hard lines that you would have to, you chipboard around to get your templates to start building stuff, and then you're trying to input, even if you were doing 3D modeling, you'd have to input that data. Now you can take that as your base and build straight off that 3D model that you get the geometry that you already have from the car. So it allows us to build stuff. Once we get to that point, we can build it faster. We know what the problems might be because you've already done it. For instance, the dash I'm doing the C10 right now, by doing the scan ahead of time, every one of them's done differently. The AC box is in a different spot.
Yeah.
They've got wiring brackets in different spots. So it allows us to build around those things ahead of time instead of getting it almost done, sliding it in and go, oh man, we got to cut the back of this bracket because we didn't allow for that. And silly stuff like that you don't want to do. So you avoid those problems ahead of time and allow you to build more accurate panel work. So saves time on sanding, saves a lot less filler involved. There's no sculpting. I mean, everything is machined that we do. So it's just a different way of thinking. It's closer to rapid prototyping than it is fabricating anymore. A lot of the stuff we do.
So you're not going out with the saw just trying to freehand cut stuff like everybody's done for years. It's all done computer for you now.
Everything is done machined. It doesn't mean we don't use our routers. We use our routers all day, every day, our table routers. But I think we have a jigsaw in the shop somewhere. I don't know where it's at. There's none of that type stuff. It is 100%. You'll see us use routers from time to time, especially if we got to reduce something, or maybe there was a profile that's just faster to do on a router as opposed to letting the machine mill it. Because everyone's like, oh, well, you just let them mill it. I was like, well, you can, but if it takes the machine 2 hours to mill that profile and it's going to take me 3 seconds, I'd rather just mill it myself instead of letting the machine run. Yeah. So it's all about efficiency, but we use our routers every day. But as far as other hand tools, every single thing we do is machined. So it's precise. It allows us to do things quicker, which is great. So.
Now, when me and you first linked up was on the Sierra that I've got now. I know you did the speaker box and the pillar pods. Like when I was talking to Sean that did my interior, I was like, hey, what do you want to do with this? And I know he sells y'all's boxes. And he's like, man, it'd be easier just to have them do a box. He's like, for what you're going to have in it versus me building one and fiberglass and all that stuff. He's like, it's going to be a much easier, better install, quicker install than him having to fab stuff. So I guess the prefab box market is pretty big for you guys.
So it's 65% of our business is that stuff. and the products related to it, the e-commerce and box stuff. I think we build like between 400 and 500, maybe 400, 600 boxes a month. It just depends on the time of year.
Wow.
We really pioneered, there's no offense, we pioneered the, whatever you want to call it, the high end box
Yeah.
game. That was, we started doing it 8, 9 years ago. And that was our beginning. It was 10 years ago going to, LST and being around the lifted truck guys. We had some lifted trucks, but they were never like at all on the level of what, some of these big guys had, but we hung around everybody. Everybody knew us as car audio guys. And, we had cool installs and cool boxes. And so, 8 years ago, we did a couple builds that were really nice. We were at SEMA, and it was, that was our beginning of our custom interior stuff, was a couple lifted trucks. And so, and it was, it was fun. And so anyways, long and short is, the next thing, we got guys asking us for stuff, and they're way across the country. They don't want to have the there, so they want us to ship the stuff. So we start trying to figure out how we can start shipping stuff out. And it was a phenomenal accident, because really the joke is I wanted to buy a new CNC, and I had an old ShopBot, which is a smaller CNC company.
Yeah.
And I wanted to buy a Can Master, which was a new, nicer, more industrial machine. And, everything with me and my business partner is you got to have it paid for. And so we were just like, he goes, man, I told him, man, I'll sell a couple of these, I'll sling a couple of these boxes a month online. That'll cover the payment. And see, then we'll have to do CNC, and I can do cooler installs and start doing more custom interior stuff. And it was just one of those things. 2 became 10, became 20, became 200, became what it is now. And Jim Skaggs, which everybody knows, Jim, was big into a lot of the Ford, car audio stuff. And me and him were friends, have been friends for years. And he really helped kind of push a lot of it online. And that, coupled with, who we were and in the car audio world, it just kind of, it worked. And it's a weird thing that just kind of happened. I didn't go in saying, hey, this is going to be part of our business model and this is where it's going to go. It took on a whole life of its own. And like now it's a whole division of the company. There's 18 employees that do nothing but either build boxes and car audio, sell boxes and car audio, and so on and so forth, or designers. We have one full-time designer, which is Edgar, which he actually designed your box, and most everybody does all the pillars and stuff. That's Edgar Diastato. My wife actually runs the production side of the company. And then you got 18 other builders. You got people shipping every day. I think they ship out 20 or 30 boxes a day. So it's a whole other entity in and of its own. I actually I can't remember the last time I built a box, actually, for anything. I built one for a C10 the other day. I was like, man, first time I built a box in forever. And so we don't actually usually build the sub boxes. We do a lot of panel work, but all our guys, we joke that everyone says, oh man, y'all build all these boxes. Like, we don't build boxes. Okay, I ain't gonna take that credit. I was like, we got people to build boxes. We may draw something, but we don't build them. I was like, I promise you. So it's been one of those really phenomenal things of being in the right place, the right time. And I tell everybody, there's a lot of people that are like, man, how do you do? As a man, is like there was no recipe for it. It just, as in most things when you are, it just worked. And those things have complemented each other. That's kind of the big deal. Is like, because a lot of these guys with these big lifted trucks that do these also have a classic truck or two.
Yeah.
So it almost goes together hand in hand. And so many of them will, we did stuff for them, and then they ship us their classic vehicle. It's how we met Fletcher Cox of the Eagles. Is we built a box for Fletcher years ago, 2 or 3 years ago, and shipped it to him. Next thing you know, Slick Fabs is doing a Camaro for him, and Scott from Slick Fabs is like, hey man, you got to use this guy to do your interior, and he goes, MTI. And he goes, wait a minute, I know those guys. And so it instantly made him comfortable with shipping his Camaro over here for us to do the interior. And we've done 10 vehicles for him since then. So yeah, I mean, it's just those things, they work together. And we've been fortunate enough to be on the good side of it. So it works out.
Well, I know like you can buy a preloaded box from you guys, but like in my situation, I wanted to run a certain brand sub, and we bounce back and forth. Do we do 4.8s? Do we do 210s, 212s? And I guess you guys trying to figure out, okay, well now you got to have a seat lift to get this to fit, but to do this, we can do up fire to make this work. I guess there's a lot of engineering that has to go into all this.
So as much as everyone's like, hey, they're prefab. It's actually fairly comical. None of those, there are no shelves in the back with boxes sitting on them, unless they're built for a client and they're getting finished.
Yeah.
There's no warehouse with a bunch of boxes waiting to be done up. Every single one of them, they take the order. It's designed for what we're doing. We optimize the box, the shell for that, and then obviously we have the design cues that have to go in depending on what you want. So I mean, really and truly, everybody else that has come behind us, they don't build custom boxes. They build 3 or 4 designs that they do over and over and over and over again.
Yeah.
Every one of ours is fully customizable. So that's been kind of the deal that that's kept us completely different from everybody else, is that you can put these lights here, put these lights there. You can do all these different options. You can make it 100% your own. So when you get the box, you don't have to feel like, oh, I just bought a prefab. No, you bought a fully custom box. I just shipped it to you. That's what happened.
You can produce it quicker and easier than someone can
Yeah.
like a single shop.
Yeah, and that's what it is. And we have dealers all over the country, and they're
My
phenomenal.
installer's a
And
dealer.
and so I mean, it's one of those things where it just it works. You know, they do a great job back there. I I helped start it, but I can't take credit for much of anything that they do back there now. That's really them, other than eyeballing color from here and there. If they want me to color match stuff, or or repair machines when they break, that's really all I do. I don't design the boxes anymore. I don't. I think I'm actually wanting to do up my dually right now, and I'm actually gonna. It's the first Ford box I've built in probably 3 or 4 years at least. So I'm gonna do one specifically for mine. I want something that's completely wacky that we haven't done before. And so I told everybody, they were like, "Hey, you want us to do it?" I was like, "No, I'm gonna sit down and do it myself." I was like, "I want to do it myself. I really want to, do something that we hadn't done before. I produce a new design." I was like, and it won't be sellable. I was like, if you want me to build one, I'll build you one, but you have to come here and cost a bunch of money to have it done. So, but I want something that's completely for me. So that'll be the first one I'll probably build in 4 years. So it's fun.
Well, I know when like the pillar pods you guys did for me, my installer, first thing he did is pulled the grill and stuff off, and he's like, man, I couldn't build these with the equipment I have here. He's like, the fact that they have all the machines to make all that work. He goes, I can't build this. He's like, so to use something like that makes his job easier, which makes the finish work look better. I mean, yeah, he could have gone through and fiberglass something and made it work, but I guess all the computer stuff you have, most shops don't have.
Yeah, a lot of shops don't have. You're getting more and more shops that are starting to do it, but even then, you have to have the engineering background to put it together, and then to do something at a production level. Like, all the housings are 3D scanned and printed now. So we have, I think, 30 3D printers in the building right now. We just ordered another 10. So we have a full 3D print farm upstairs, and we're building a whole lab that's going to be just 3D printers for our 3D guys that they're going to run. So it allows us to do a lot of stuff, or do a lot of neat engineering, a lot of neat designs. And the common part, like I said, all that stuff works hand in hand. A lot of those finishing techniques, a lot of those, processes all either came from us doing custom builds or came from us doing boxes, and then we transferred them over. So it's definitely made for some they work hand in hand, and allows us to push things farther, faster. And that's kind of always what we do, is like, hey, when you're building something, can this be done this way? Is it the fastest way? Is it the most efficient way? But on the flip side, does it look like anything else anybody else has done? I refuse to, copy anybody else's work. I was like, look, I'll build you something custom if you want me to, but I'm not going to, copy them. For instance, I'll give you a great example. The patina truck I just posted, beautiful truck, phenomenal, for a gentleman named Mike Yell out of, I think he's out of Houston. I may get that wrong. So Mike, if I did, you can kill me later. So anyways, so he brought me some pictures of a phenomenal interior done by Avant Garde that my buddy, he's actually a former employee of mine, Matt Val, did. Phenomenal interior that Matt did in a roadster shop build. And he brings a picture to me. He goes, "This is what I want." I go, "Well," I was like, "if you want that, you can just go down to Florida and have them do it." He was like, "No, I don't want to do all that. I want you to do it." I was like, "Well, I was like, I can use it as an idea." I was like, "But let us do our own rendering." I was like, "Phenomenal work." I was like, "He's a great friend of mine." And I was like, "And I don't mind building something in that vein, if that's what you want." And so that's what we ultimately did. And it just, like, it goes all the way back. It's like, man, I was like, let me build you something that's yours. Let me build you a piece of art that's yours, that's really for you.
Yeah.
So that's worked out, you know.
So I guess going back a little bit. So when you left Circuit City, is that when you started MTI? Is that how that?
No, I worked for a shop called Soundwaves for a year, and then I worked for Audio Video, which is ultimately the company I bought Mobile Toys from. I worked for Audio Video, which are a high-end home theater company here in town, and they had a car audio division, but it wasn't named anything. It was just the whole store was called Audio Video, and it's an electronics,
Yeah.
it's a home audio video company. It's been around for 40 years. I mean, it's comical that to think that there's a company that's been around that long, but they have, and they do it very well. And I started. They built a new facility, and we did a car audio only side of it, and that's where Mobile Toys was really born. Is I named the car audio side. There's Mobile Toys, and I was there 6 months, and then I got an opportunity to go work with Gary Biggs and some buddies of mine in Tulsa, and so I took off. And just graduated, and I wanted to try living in another state, which no offense to anybody from Oklahoma, I didn't like living in Tulsa. It just wasn't for me. I'm a Texas boy. It snows up there. It was like really like the first year I was there, like it snowed and like it's crazy. It was like really bad snow. I was like, oh my god. So, but I learned a lot being there, and I ended up they they wanted, as years went on, Gene, the owner of Audio Video, he found that he was an absentee owner. He was in the same building, but he didn't know anything about any of that business anymore, and he just really wanted to get out of it. And a lot of the same sales reps are in that same territory. And so one of the jail reps is a good buddy of mine named Sean, and he called me up. He's like, "Hey, I heard you're going to move back to Texas." And I was about to take a job in Dallas just to get back to Texas,
Yeah.
and he says, "Man, you got an opportunity here to buy your shop." And I go, "Man, I ain't got no money. I was like, I'm broke." And then I heard Gene in the background. He goes, "Go call your best friend up in Houston. Y'all come down here." And my best friend's, he's Vietnamese. His name's Lou. And we were college, best friend from college. We've been friends for, God bless, 20 some odd years. And we met down there and we made a deal. And it was about the best sweetheart deal we could ever offer. And we did it. And a month later, I was back in College Station. And that's really where Mobile Toys was really, really what version it is now was born. And yeah, so that's kind of how it happened. But
What year was it?
I guess it was in 2009. So yeah, 2009. So it's been 13, 14 years now.
And you just started with the boxes and stuff?
It was a car audio shop, and we built custom truck boxes and all that. But we were 100% a car audio shop back then. We had a 2,500 square foot shop, and that's where we built everything. And for a long time, a lot of the vehicles everyone saw us do back then, there was all built in a fairly small shop. We had a laser, and I had a CNC at my house because I learned to use a lot of that stuff. I'd already done all the CAD work when I was in college. So I've been doing CAD my entire life, but the machine stuff I learned when I was in Tulsa, going back and forth to a plastics wholesaler. They had a laser and a CNC there, and I kind of learned to use it. And so when I got my own shop, that was just one of those things I felt like I had to have.
Yeah.
Jeremy Carlson was using it, and he really was like, "Man, you got to go this way." And some of my buddies at Rockford were using it, so man, you got to have these things. And so we just went with it. Was what we were into, and so and because of those guys. So yeah, it was that's really where it all started. The whole thing started. We're high-end car audio shop. That's what we did. So.
Was your truck the first full interior you had done?
It really was the first big full interior. We had done some stuff in lifted trucks, but it was the first big interior we had that was ever featured in anything. And it was the first one to do really well. We had more interior work that we could shake a stick at, but some of it was production stuff, some of it was fixing and repairs, and then we did a bunch of lifted trucks where we'd rewrap, we'd restitch the dash, do custom door panels, stuff like that, and custom seats and all that. But we were putting on high end Aaliyah leather kits and then matching everything to that. That's how we were doing
Yeah.
it. So the first full interior that was really ours, that was a complete, was Lucy. So
And that's where it just snowballed, and now that's your.
yeah, it's where it snowballed it from there. And we were blessed to be around a lot of good people. Really, really a lot of good people. Craig Rowley, Lonnie, and Radar, and Jared over at LST. They have been fans and supporters of our stuff for a long time. you know, but we went out and showed everybody what we could do, and I think that's something that's lost on everybody is, everyone wants something now,
Yeah.
but to do what we do, you have to really work at it and work hard at it. I mean, there's a phrase, and I think it's relevant to a lot of people nowadays is you want to be really good at something, plan on spending at least 10,000 hours on it. And it has to be 10,000 good hours, not 10,000 half-ass hours. So, and I think that's something that we hit a point where we were like really phenomenal in car audio, and I felt like we had taken it as far as it could go, and that's kind of something my dad is ingrained in me is like, whatever you're gonna do, you got to be the best at it, no matter what. He goes, you may fail, but you put it in a corner and hope it sticks. But if you're going to be a ditch digger, be the best ditch digger you can be. And so that was always the deal. So it's like when we did car audio, we did all that. We competed. We, literally 75 championships doing car audio, and we've won the expert class all the way down to rookie classes with cars we've built. We've beat the best of the best, and we've done it. I actually took the Civic back out this past year and won the expert class again. It's the first time I've been in like 3 or 4 or 5 years, I think, to a World Finals event, and we still support all that. Obviously, we have a big show here every year, so for that. But you know, when we got into doing high-end interiors and being in the classic truck world, I told everybody, I was like, this is a much bigger mountain to climb. It's a much bigger group to try to get up in front and try to lead. And you can't with these guys, they're different. It's a larger group, but it's also some guys that really know their stuff. They're very creative, and their attention to detail is better. There's a lot of things. It's just, because a lot of these guys are high end classic car guys as well, and so it's a different deal. And so to fit in with those guys and be them, you have to transition to something else. And so we were always fun. We were always really good at partnering with the right people and then producing, no matter what it was. I tell everybody, you can put less layers on the cake as long as all the lines are perfect and
Yeah.
everything's tight. So I always stress to my guys, it's like, just because you can do it, don't mean you should do it. And if it doesn't look good, don't do it. Less is always more as long as it's perfect. So that's always been kind of the deal. We look at other people's stuff. We look at other people's hair. I mean, we'd look at grade A cars. We'd look at all these cars and we go, man, it's phenomenal, but this could have been a little better. This could have been a little better. And then we had the benefit of having great friends like the guys at Avant Garde, Jeremy Carlson, Jeremy Katz over at JK Designs, Tracy Weaver is one of my close buddies, and just being able to look at their stuff and go, man, you look at that. That's the goal. That's the model. So those guys have been at the top of the game, for a very, very, very long time, and they're considered the pinnacle. So for us, that was always our goal because we taught with those guys the last 8 years at Mobile Solutions. So we had the benefit of being around a lot of really good people that taught us. And obviously, I worked with Gary Biggs, which is a phenomenal fabricator installer in his day, and so we've had a lot of benefits, but it took a lot of work, a lot of late nights, all nighters. Just like anybody else that's really good, they're going to tell you the same thing. It didn't just happen. You had to work for it. And so, that's what we do. I tell everybody, I get emails from time to time. It's really funny. And we'll see them post. And it's like, oh man, those guys, they just, they get the benefit because of this or that. I was like, man, come beat me, please. I was like, it'll be fun. I was like, I don't even care. I don't even care if I lose. It's not a big deal. I was like, we're going to go do what we do and not worry about anybody else. And I tell everybody that all the time.
You've
Worry
definitely
about
made
what.
a name for the business though. Like I think it's probably one of the top interior audio companies in the country right now. Like you guys definitely are a whole different breed than most shops.
Well, we appreciate it. It's phenomenal to do what we do. I mean, I tell you, my worst day at work is better than most people's best days. So, I mean, when I get off this podcast with you, I'm going to walk in the other room and I'm going to go back to machining parts and be happy as a clam. And I'll probably work till 10 or 11 o'clock tonight and go home and
Now,
won't think anything of it. Won't bother me. So
you said that first shop, 2,500 square feet. How many employees were there then?
when we started, we had 3 employees.
So
That
what have you
included that
grown?
included me. So
So
we
now
have
what?
30,000 square feet, about 30 employees, depending on the week, if I fired somebody that week or hired somebody.
Did you ever think in the Circuit City days that you would have that much square footage and that many people under your thumb
No,
at that point?
no, absolutely not. And there are days I don't want to do it today.
But then you do stuff like win 3 back-to-back LST best ofs, the stuff you're involved with, and it probably makes you realize you want to do it.
So that's a different group of people. Yeah, it does. I mean, I love all my employees, but man, there are different groups. You got the people in the back that do production. I got my car audio guys, and then I've got my interior guys, which are my guys. I work in the interior department. It doesn't mean I don't oversee everything or have to hear about it, but by the time something gets to me, it's royally fucked. So I have to just solve it. Or I just redo it. Just redo it. Just don't even ask a question. Just redo it. If you've got to call me, it's fine. I mean, it's like, oh my God. And I have managers and everything else, just like any organized company would. But I tell everybody, it's like Project Mayhem here from time to time. It's just things are going crazy. But um, no, I never in a million years thought it would be like it is now. And I know me and my business partner joke about it all the time. It's like, man, we just wanted to start a car stereo shop, man. That's what we were doing.
What year did you have your first SEMA build there?
Uh, so it would have had to have been, it was the year, or I think it was the year before Lucy, maybe 2 years, maybe 17, maybe 16 or 7. I think it was 17. It was a Dodge Mega Cab. Dude, it was on the cover of another magazine. Well, Trucking, it's not, it's no longer a magazine
Yeah.
now. It was on the cover of Trucking. It was a crazy orange camo interior. It was a long bed mega cab, which I think the guy that originally had it won it from the Diesel Brothers
Diesel Brothers,
guys.
yeah.
I think they built it. He won it or bought it from them, and so it had digital camo, crazy interior, and it was orange. And so we did a full tangerine interior with a crazy custom audio system in it. It was, I can't remember. I think it was an American Forces booth. I don't remember. But it was phenomenal.
Your Civic wasn't.
My Civic's actually never been to SEMA. It's been to CES multiple times. It's been to Vegas, but I've never taken the Civic to SEMA. So that's actually was one of the running jokes. I actually tried to take it this past year, and then I ended up deciding I didn't want to tow a car there this year, so I didn't. I already know that I'll have to the next 3 years, and this was like the only year where I've been like, I don't want to tow a car this year. I'll just fly in like my buddies do, and it was a lot nicer. I ain't gonna lie,
Well, I made
but
the drive, so my drive's a little bit longer than yours. I mean, I
it
was about
is,
32 hours without stopping is what it would have been. So yeah, and I get
yeah.
to do that again this year. But luckily, it's the wife's Tahoe. I don't have to pull a trailer with it. It's just hop in it and roll.
Yeah, we'll be pulling a 44-foot trailer, so I already know it's gonna be cool. We get to make a bunch of trips out west. Thankfully, we've all kind of organized them. We'll have to make the Grand National Roadster, which will be the longest drive I think we've done. I've gone all the way to Tampa to go down there for a big show with Mike Barsha and all the NC guys, so my NC brothers. But I think that's the longest I've driven that way. And then the farthest I've driven the other way is right, obviously, to Vegas. But we'll have to go to, I think it's in Pomona. I always get it wrong. I think it's in Pomona is where Grand National Roadster
Hours
show.
after past Vegas.
Yeah, it's hours past Vegas. So all I know is like Vegas is like my limit. It's like, oh, okay, I made it to Vegas. I'm done. I have to go any farther west, and this will be the year where I go, or this next year will be the year where I go, well, I've got to go all the way to California with a vehicle finally. So yeah, it'll be cool. But we'll do that, and then and we'll do there, and then I think this will be the year that I go to the Daryl Starbird show in Tulsa. I came up going to that show. It's a show that we haven't ever been to. They have they call it the Fine Nine, which is their version of, I guess, a Riddler or whatever,
Yeah.
and it's all high end vehicles. And they give away a bunch of money, but I spent 3 years in Tulsa, and I came up going to that show there for 3 years, and it was such a huge show. It was a really awesome show, but it was like my first real deal of seeing these guys put vehicles up like an ISCA show and 20 by 20 displays, and I was like, man, one of these days I want to have one of those vehicles down the middle. So I said I was going to do it with Georgia, and because I do, my buddy was doing a bunch of Autorama stuff, Steve Green. I always went to Autorama stuff, so this will be the first year where I don't have to go to Dallas Autorama, so I can go to because they're on the same date. I can go to Daryl Starboard, so I'm dying to go to Daryl Starboard because I've never been, and then we'll do that. So I think it's like Grand National Roaster Show. Then 2 weeks later is Daryl Starboard, and then the week later is LST, and then I think we're home for 1 week, and then we'll haul ass and go to Detroit and do Detroit Autorama, and then we'll turn from there and drive. We'll probably drive down to Phoenix, leave the truck and trailer in Phoenix because I have
Sounds
a
like you just need a
conference.
transporter at this
I
point.
do, and I have a conference there, and then I'll fly home. We'll do the same thing for SEMA. For SEMA, we'll go SEMA, drive down to Phoenix, leave the stuff there either at Dino's place or at our buddy's place in Phoenix. We'll fly home, we'll fly back, do Dino's, then we'll haul ass back to Houston and do Houston Autorama and and then go home for Thanksgiving. So
Well, where with you being this heavily involved in the interior world, where do you see interiors going in the near future? You continue with more of this computer done stuff? Do you see it going another direction? Do you see crazy audio coming back? Like, what's the
so I don't So you're seeing more crazy audio stuff, but you see it really in the lifted truck world more than you do anything else now, which is great because we do a bunch of those. Thank you, fellows. We really appreciate it. And and so that's great. I don't foresee that in the interior world. You're going to continue to see people refine and refine and refine. Um, you're seeing some of these I say old timers, or these guys have been doing it longer than me. Most some are younger than me actually, but these guys have been doing it, and they're finally starting to come on it. And I see a lot of these guys. They come to classes that I teach, and I get a kick out of it watching these guys finally come around and realize, that, hey, come this way, you know. So I think you're going to continue to see people refine what we do. I don't foresee big audio in the interiors. I don't see it. And obviously, if we're doing like we're doing a mini truck or something like that, like I'm doing one right now for one of my good buddies, and we're going to do it up with a bunch of audio. We did Jason Watt's truck. He's an acro, and we did big audio in his because he wanted bed subs and blow through and all that. And so that does happen. But
yeah?
in the high end hot rod world, man, they want it to be just loud enough to play over the motor when they're cruising on the road. Most of them don't even care that it has audio in it. Most of them really don't, and they just want it to be loud enough to be over the motor if they so choose. But they're easy going, you know. So it's just going to continue to be refined. It's going to go more and more towards being that European feel. I think that modern car feel.
Yeah.
You're still going to have people that want, like a takeoff of a year one interior, but it's going to get tighter and tighter and tighter. Gaps are going to get, you know. I like to tell guys I like my interiors to be better than a factory built car. So, and that's always the goal. It's like, man, if they wouldn't put this in a Ford truck or a BMW or a Mercedes or something like that, I don't want to do it. So, um, so yeah, I mean, I just think things are going to continue to refine themselves. Computers are going to continue to play a huge part and get bigger and bigger. We 3D print so much more stuff now than what we did a year ago, and our plans are to bring in bigger resin printers as the year goes on, and bigger stuff to allow us to do that, and then outsourcing things and all that jazz, because it truly has become rapid prototyping. You're designing something in 3D and printing it and putting it in the car, and it's going to get better and better. I know the guys that are in my opinion the guys I look up to, and I know what they're doing. I mean, they're to the point now where they're printing stuff and just putting it in. They almost don't have, they don't have to fit anything. It fits. It goes in,
Oh,
and
wow.
it's like wrap, done, see ya. So I know the guys. I got he's a friend, Matt Val, but he's also a former employee. He was at AG after he left me, and now he's over at Velocity down there. I think they're in the Panhandle, right
Uh,
up from uh,
Tallahassee.
yeah, up in that area. So they're
Yeah.
right up in that area, and so anyways, I was just at the conference with him, and we were talking. I think they do 160 vehicles a year. I think they have a F100 line, a Mustang line, and I can't remember the other two. But they have
Bronco.
four lines. Yeah, they have four lines of vehicles. They build 160 vehicles a year, and literally every one of their interiors are all 3D modeled, And literally, he has them to where they're all machined or 3D printed, and they just drop right in. There is no finish work other than wrapping them and putting it and bolting them in. And that's where everything is going to continue to evolve to that point. I know for us guys that are pushing it, that's where we want to go. It's how close can we get our scans to get everything in there to where again there is no body filler. It is literally a manufactured part when we're done, and that's the goal. Then I think that's going to continue to push it for all of us, but especially us guys that are these tech guys. That's what we go for. So
Yeah. Well, I'm excited to see what you actually have turned out here in the near future. So, I spent quite a bit of time in y'all's, I guess it's y'all's building at LST because, you had to hand and pretty much half the stuff that was in that building. But,
yeah,
you can look at an interior if you've been around this long enough and know that's an MTI interior. Like you can look at it, the fit, finish, like you almost have a signature look without having a signature look.
yeah, yeah. And we appreciate it. It's taken a long time to get there. It wasn't overnight, but it I tell my guys this, and I think it's a great thing to kind of close with. But if you build it like it's the last thing that you're ever gonna build and that anybody's ever gonna see, it'll turn out just fine. And that was something that Gary Biggs told me. And I remember sitting there, and it was actually when we built the Civic. Me and him built my Civic together in that version of it. And I was like, man, what are we gonna do here? He goes, man, we're gonna build this like it's the last cool car audio build we're going to do. Of course, when we were doing those builds, they're full interiors as well.
Yeah.
And he's like, we're going to build it like it's the last one we ever do. And he goes, that's how you should approach every single build. And that's what I tell my guys. I was like, if you approach it like it's this, you'll never get to do this again because what we do is fun. It is absolutely a blast. Don't get me wrong, we have good days and bad days. We have things at home that play in, but what we do is absolutely freaking awesome. And so I tell everybody, you build it like it's the last thing you'll ever do, it'll turn out just fine because you have so much pride in it and you have so much, personal attention into it and so much effort into making it amazing that it'll turn out just fine. So,
well, how can people find you online? Which one of your accounts should they follow?
they can follow any of them, but on
I
Instagram,
follow
it's
all of them.
Mobile Toys Inc. Everything gets posted to Mobile Toys Inc. That's the easiest one, but obviously there's MTI Automotive Designs and MTI Acoustics, but everything that's posted on those pages is on Mobile Toys Inc. So it's the best way to find us is Mobile Toys Inc. And then on Facebook there's Mobile Toys Inc. and then MTI Acoustics. There's also an automotive design page on there. We do try to keep things fairly separate on Facebook, although sometimes you'll see something on Mobile Toys and automotive design, but very seldom do you see. We just try to stick to the production and box stuff on the acoustic side because both those pages have huge followings of their own. You can find us there, and that's really the two places we're at. We're also on YouTube as well under Mobile Toys Inc. or MTI Acoustics. So we have YouTube pages with videos of us, some of the builds and us doing stupid things that maybe we shouldn't do or whatever. But
That's what half of social media is, isn't it?
It is. It is. It really is.
So for the listeners that don't know Chris, don't know what he's done, definitely go check this out. Him and his crew turn out some crazy high end interiors. Probably some of the nicer stuff that you'll nicer than most of the stuff you'll ever see. So make sure you go give him a follow and keep up with what he's working on. Well, I appreciate you coming on, man. It's definitely been a good talk. Learned a lot of info. Didn't realize that Civic was yours, and being a Honda guy, that was something that I always remembered seeing. So it's cool to finally put that together.
Man, I appreciate it, dude. Thanks for having me on.
All right, man. See you.